RBL Weekly, back on the air. I am the commissioner of the Roast Battle League, Pat Barker, joined by my co-host, the founder, the creator, the host of the Roast Battle Show, Brian Moses.
I'm looking really LA today. I got this red flannel and this trucker hat.
Is that really LA?
It just feels very like 2002 LA, you know?
I wasn't here then.
I mean, but you saw it on TV, right?
I would not know, but flannel's like a Midwest trucker
hat.
hat?
But you ever see like an LA guy in like July wearing this kind of get up or like a beanie and it's like wearing a flannel? It's like 101 degrees outside.
No.
You never seen this?
You and
this
I hang out in different neighborhoods.
Really? This feels like black guy who's trying to be, he's craving white acceptance.
I live in Glendale. It's all Adidas tracksuits.
Okay. So Armenians who think they're Italian.
You got it.
Nice.
Yeah. I always say because a lot of people all over the country, before I moved here, I didn't even know like Armenians were a thing. Mm-hmm. The way I explain it is every Armenian guy is like a certain percentage in his head, Tony Soprano, and a certain percentage Drake. Right. Some of them might be 70-30 in one direction, some 70-30 in another, but they're always a mixture of those two.
And they're all disappointed in the Kardashian family.
Absolutely.
Outside of Robert.
And every woman looks like they're made of like spare Kardashian parts.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Shout out the Armenians.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, crushing that genocide. Didn't get them, Turks.
All right, let's jump into this week's episode. We have a very special one this week, man.
Very special. Yeah,
this is fun because
short but special.
We've been doing the league, of course, and that's where our focus is, and we're going to talk about that a little bit in a minute. But this is not about the other cities. This is not about the other countries, the other continents. This is not about the battles that happened last week. We're dipping into the Wayback Machine.
We are raising jerseys into the rafters.
We are. The Hall of Flame.
Yeah, working title.
Today, a select handful of people will become Hall of Flamers. It's very exciting.
Pause.
And I'm excited to get into who they are and to watch some of these old battles. I had to watch, some old battles to prepare for this. Mm-hmm. And, golden era, 2016, 2017, Belly Room. Before this show was a global phenomenon when it was just kind of like you had to know somebody who knew somebody to know about this show.
Golden era, like early 90s, mid 90s hip hop. This is the best we did.
Exactly. So I want to, it's going to be jarring for some of our new viewers, and I want to let you know two things. Number one, these were filmed before 4K cameras, before we had any of the good shit. This is
flip phones, baby.
iPhone 7s and Nokia 5100s. This is back in the day shit. The quality of the battles is good enough to outweigh any production issues, in my mind.
Yeah.
And number two, and we'll talk more about them, but some of our new viewers may be unfamiliar with a thing called the Wave.
Oh,
we've picked up a lot of new viewers over the last few months.
We have.
And the Wave was a thing that originated in the Belly Room. It is no longer a thing, but it was polarizing, to say the least.
Polarizing to a lot of online audience, and when we were on television in America for about 3 or 4 years, the audience hated it. Nobody likes it unless you're live in the room, because when you're live in the room, you feel like you're a part of the Wave. The Wave really, it was created because it was almost like guys were doing a parody of a Def Jam audience. Now, younger audience won't know what a Def Jam audience is, but in the 90s, there was this thing where it was an all-black show with an all-black audience, and it's like Martin Lawrence in his prime, you know what I mean? And all your favorite black comics in their prime, and the audience was a character on the show because the audience was doing things, I mean, as funny as the comic on stage was. They were getting up, like running through the aisles. I mean, like making weird noises when they're laughing. I mean, it was crazy. So, I mean, that's what the Wave was kind of emulating and doing a parody of sorts.
And when I first came around to the roast battle, the Wave was as big of a part of the show as the battles.
Yeah.
And everybody loved it.
Oh,
and then we put it on screen for TV and then for the internet, and everybody hated. I've never seen a bigger gap
translate
at all. At all. I've never seen a bigger gap between the perception live and on film. So there are going to be people who watch these battles and the Wave runs on stage and they are going to be like, what the fuck is this?
They're going to hate it. Yeah, it's jarring because if you're not in the room, it doesn't make sense.
But I want to let everybody know, just relax. You don't have to leave a comment down here. Who are those guys? What are they doing? Just accept that it's not for you, and we're sorry that you have to be distracted for 5 seconds between the jokes. Just pretend it's not happening. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, keep it moving.
Yeah.
The battles will be worth it.
You got to think. I mean, like we're comics of, and we've seen and heard everything. So you got to think we're seeing something that silly that if you're a novice to comedy, you'd be like, well, this is stupid. But if you're like a PhD in comedy, you're like, this is ridiculous, and I love it.
yeah. It added an extra element that nobody now wants. But boy, I when I first started coming around, I remember wave bits just as much as I remember jokes or battles or anything like that.
I mean, one of my first bits I remember that I could tell people about the wave. I was like, well, what do they do? I'm like, they did a reenactment of Malcolm X getting shot. It was amazing. Yeah. By the way, after mid battle, by the way, it was the wave, and it was somebody in the audience being like, "Get your hand out my pockets!" And then one of the black members of the wave goes on stage, gets shot. This is all within 6 seconds. It's incredible what they do.
Right.
Yeah.
All improv comedy, no words, no
word. They don't say anything. They just do bits that are like monuments, and they get the fuck out of there.
To me, it was like, remember, like back in the day, Joe Horn scored a touchdown and pulled a cell phone out of the goalpost,
exactly.
And like T.O. with the popcorn and everything. They were like elaborate, like end zone celebrations, which I always thought was really cool. And
it was fun.
As a battler, there was no higher honor than having the wave come on stage and do some wild shit after one of your jokes.
Well, here's why, because we have a lot of white people in the roast battle. So when black guys are running on stage and giving you almost like a pseudo ghetto pass, you're like, oh my God, can I say the N-word now?
I think all white people would agree compliments from black people mean so much more.
Yeah, that's why the wave worked.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the highest form of flattery.
So we'll be out January 1st, back at the mothership. We're in San Diego December 6th. And gosh, we have so many dates, man.
We have so many dates. Follow us on Instagram at Roast Battle. Follow me at RBL Commish. The Roast Battle account has a link in the profile to get tickets for any of our cities for upcoming shows. Let's get into the Hall of Flame.
Hell yeah, the Flamers.
This is the first of a 2-part episode. We have several inductees. We're going to cover half of them today, half of them next week. Let's get the graphic up here on the screen right now. If we could throw this up there. And so this was the ballot.
Okay.
Now, whittling this ballot down to the 33 names that you see was difficult enough.
Right.
There are so many people, and I know talking to you, you had people, back in the day who were at the very inception in 2013. They're going to end up on the ballot at some point. I had to cut it somewhere, and these were the 33 names we settled on. These are the 7 inductees that were on the ballot. You can see the check marks there. Keith Carey, Frank Castillo, Kim Congdon, Mike Lawrence, Connor McSpadden, Omid Singh, and the aforementioned Wave.
Wow, the Wave got in. That is a battler's pick. Yeah, that's like coaches and like sports writers are like, okay, you got to put the Wave
for
there.
sure. If this was open to the public, the Wave would be off the ballot.
Yeah,
after
it'd be negative points. Yeah.
As it stands, 55% was the threshold. These 7 names got more than 55% of the vote. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about all these guys and watching their battles. Before we get off of this screen, because this is the last time you're going to see it, can you pick a couple names on there that didn't get in that you feel like might be snubs on this first class?
Jimmy Carr. I mean, he's the reason we go to overseas. So I mean, like that. I got to be. That's my first snub, Jimmy Carr. Just because without Jimmy Carr, we don't get 4 seasons and are the highest rated Comedy Central show in the UK. Joe Urell might be a snub just because we've never seen a battler with the disability, right? Because I think Joe kind of emulates what we're trying to do here, which is everybody can get it. As long as you consent to it, everybody can get it. Doesn't matter if we can hear you, as long as you have the jokes and they're understandable, if we can read them,
right,
and you can write them, we got them. And I feel like Joe is, that might be my second snub right there. So I'll go with those two. I'll go with Jimmy Carr and Joe Urell.
Yeah, I mean, those are good names. There's not a name on here that I didn't feel like doesn't belong in at some point, but this is the year for these 7 people and 2 more before we move on. 2 people that we didn't even have on the ballot because they frankly didn't need to be. It's no-brainers. It's obvious. I'm talking, of course, about Brian Moses and Jeff Ross.
I don't believe you guys did that.
You're a Hall of Famer, man. Congratulations. How's it feel?
I can't wait to hear that on the internet.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a choice right now. You can either make your acceptance speech or talk briefly about Jeff and what he has meant to the show.
Yeah, Jeff Ross comes probably 6 months after we start. He sees one of the best battles, a top 10 battle in the 10 years I've been doing it, the Yasser Lester and Benji Aflalo battle. It was his first time he'd ever seen it. The day after, he hits me up via email and says, I want to make this a TV show, but I'm not sure. So I'm supposed to be moving back to New York. And so he said, give me 2 weeks to the new year, and I'll let you know. And then, 2014, like January 2nd or 3rd, Jeff hits me up. And he's like, I want to do this. So he stays in LA. And then, over the next 2 years, we just started developing a television show and developing a community. So without Jeff Ross, obviously, we're not on television. We're probably not still doing this. Yeah. There's no cachet, so.
Well, I mean,
thank you, Jeff.
That was one of the biggest things when I first showed up later in 2014 was like, as an aspiring roast writer, as somebody who wanted to get in the room for the Comedy Central roast and was able to, thanks to this show, to show up and be like, oh, Jeff is right there. Yeah. And it's not like, oh, he pops in once a month. He was there every week. You had every opportunity to show the best roaster on earth that you were able to write like killer roast jokes. It was, without Jeff, I don't think the show gets anywhere near the level of success that we've had. I
mean, the celebrities that would come in, it felt like boxing matches in the 70s or 60s. I mean, like you had everybody coming through and Jeff was telling everybody. So it was, I mean, just the fact that he trusted these young comics with this, like, this kind of like jilted art form that had been done to death for the most part, the roast battle in essence, right? The snapping on somebody, the Yamama thing. But we've given this weird structure to it. It's comics versus comics, not just like random people versus random people, So we really love that element to it. And he's like, this is it. He's like, this is how I've looked for something like this because he's the king roaster. Yeah. He's like, and now I have a new generation of this and like a talent pool I can like look at for the rest of my life kind of a thing. I mean, shout out Jeff Ross for seeing this and investing in this and really, really loving it. So I love him.
And giving a spotlight and a showcase opportunity to some of the best roast writers of the next generation. And let's start with one of those right now. This is a guy who I knew from the jump. This is a first ballot, Hall of Fame candidate. I knew this guy was probably going to get in. 93% of the vote, tied for the highest percentage of anybody. Keith Carey. Keith is a legend in terms of official statistics, the most battles of anybody, the third most wins. But for me, it was never about the stats with Keith. It was never about the wins and losses. It was about the entertaining battles. There's nobody that you could book for a battle with more confidence that it was going to be entertaining. It never mattered to me whether he won or lost. He's such a big target, but also so likable and such a tremendous roast writer himself that his battles were always fire on both sides.
Yeah, Keith never had a boring battle.
Never.
Yeah.
Never. And we're going to take a look at one of his battles right now. We're going to react as we watch. And this is one of my favorites personally because I'm in it. This is in the 18 years that I've been doing comedy, I've never had a night like this on stage. I've never had more fun on stage. Keith and I talk about this all the time. This will probably never be topped for either of us. We could play Madison Square Garden tomorrow, and it wouldn't be as cool as this 1 a.m. fight in the belly room, 3 rounds, old school, triple overtime. We're just going to jump right into it. I'm excited to check this out. Let's go.
So I'm fitting to deliver one of those beatings he missed out on.
Keith, what's up, buddy? You're battling this asshole and he says some mean things about you.
I mean, we were actually supposed to
3
fight
battles.
2 weeks ago, but we got bumped because I had to be on TV and he had a lasagna to eat alone.
First round, we already know. Tit for tat. Who wants to go first,
Hey,
gentlemen?
I'm going.
Oh, shit. Pat, Keith, let's get to it. Let's go.
So, like, fired up and aggressive here, but...
Keith has the teeth of a poor British person and the pounds of a rich British person.
I will say they ran out of acts very quickly and were just coming out a lot in this battle doing nothing.
Pat Barker is from Pennsylvania. He's such a greasy failure, his mother calls him a Philly cheese mistake. That's fitting because Keith's teeth are just like the wave. Half of them are black and they usually have food on them. Pat used to play baseball and he had a 300 average on the BMI scale. Let's go!
Keith's parents were both drug addicts, but he's never used. Mainly because he can't find anyone to cook his meth animal style.
That's an In-N-Out reference to people not on the West Coast. That's a fire joke in LA that gets nothing in New York.
That's true. My mom did heroin, but the only thing Pat ever shot up was a McDonald's when he found out that McRib wasn't coming back.
Every joke. You can't take one joke off against Keith. We each did 12 in this battle. And
30 seconds apiece this next round. We're tied up.
So second round.
Go first?
I'll go first again.
30 seconds rapid fire.
Right. Basically just 3 jokes.
Yeah, here we go.
Let's go!
Keith is so heavy, girls need help from their friends to swipe him left on Tinder.
So funny to me. Like your picture's fat.
That's a good fat show. Keith is actually bisexual, which means he spends 1 hour on Tinder and 1 hour on Grindr, and the other 22 on Grubhub. Keith is like hazard lights, a blinker that goes both ways but only gets turned on when he's about to be smashed from behind.
Anybody else has 4-part double entendre jokes, please let me know. It's a fucking bar right there.
The swagger, though. Jesus, man.
I was fired up. I don't even know.
It's like a rap battle for real.
Pat mentioned I'm bisexual. That's true. In the gay community, I am a bear, and Pat is a barely worth it. Pat's wife is the only woman who ever found a lump and then married it.
Oh, that's so good, dude. That's so
Speaking of which, Pat's wife had a miscarriage, but on the plus side, now he knows how it feels to lose a few pounds.
This is the last fucking round. We ready for this? Number 1, number 2, let's roast!
Yeah. According to the Census Bureau, Long Beach is 46% white, 41% black, and 13% Keith.
Thank you.
Pat loves eating pussy or puppy. Really any stray animals that run into the neighborhood.
Keith smokes a ton. It's a shame you can't buy your parents' love with Marlboro Miles.
They don't know what that is. My dad had so many
Pat's
Marlboro
father
Miles.
died of a heart attack. He would have survived, but Pat made the ambulance stop at Arby's.
Still 47 battles, so probably like, I don't know, 300 jokes against me. That's still top 5.
Let's talk about the miscarriage real quick. You're right, Keith. My baby did die before it was born, which means that me and your father have spent the exact same amount of time with our children.
Never doubt the value of a good miscarriage rebuttal. I want a lot with that. Remember they would do the I'm in love with the Coke?
Yeah.
They're watching right now.
Yeah, they don't like any of this.
All each other's fat again. What are we doing?
Black trying to be black.
All right, fine. No more dead baby jokes. Pat, why are you always squinting? You will get you're staring into the sun you'll never have.
Let's go!
I have a son now. Joke's on him.
Pat's favorite team is the Baltimore Orioles. Sorry, I read that wrong. Pat's favorite dream is biting more Oreos.
After all the dead baby stuff. Also, I'm off camera, but when he says the Orioles thing, I'm like shaking my head like, no, I'm fact checking him. I get so mad about that.
I love the innocence.
Keith saw his mom in a gangbang when he was younger, and now he's looking for a woman just like her. Someone who can fuck 800 pounds worth of dudes at once.
Out there eating cookies during my show. Wayne's working overtime on this one.
Yeah.
What the fuck was that?
Dude, this was legitimately like 1:15, and the crowd was so hot.
Doing it again. Pat, you're up. Let's roll.
Keith looks like the kid from Up if his mom used all the balloons for storing heroin. Who are these guys?
Pat's dad worked at the post office. It's inspiring that you defied the odds to find a way to disappoint a failure.
That's one of those that just that hurts my soul. That was like so good, dude.
That's a generate. I mean, that got everybody in the family.
One more.
Fuck it, we're going one more.
This is some Bobby Fischer shit right here.
Yeah,
You ready, King?
Y'all ready?
Triple OT. Let's roll.
Fuck it, I'm going.
This is it.
You guys, Pat looks like the kind of guy who would gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
I didn't even get the reference at the time.
It's so simple. It's funny you say that because Keith, it looks like you skipped leg day, but killed it on breast, thigh, and wing day.
Yeah, the wave ran out of bits like 5
Out of their
jokes in.
bag. Out of the tricks in the bag.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God. What a great. The crowd was chanting Pat and Keith, Pat and Keith. It was just.
It doesn't get much better than that.
No.
I'm being honest.
I mean, I'm biased. I'm not gonna say it's the best battle ever, simply because like that's so subjective. I don't think you could find a battle better than that.
There's a lot of examples of a lot of ways you can write jokes for roasts in that battle. There's just a lot, like the double entendres, the wordplay, a lot of puns, straight setup punch. I mean, there's so many styles in this, and styles make fights, and that was a hell of a fight.
And what I love about Keith is that he had so many different styles. Like, he was dead serious in that one, but then he would battle Jamar like a month later and be up there with his shirt off and just being all goofy and everything. You say styles make fights. Keith's one of those like chameleons. You could put him against anybody.
Yeah, no. He's not a system quarterback. He is the system.
He is the system, yeah. Yeah, he's what James Harden thinks he is. Yeah.
James hardened arteries. That is Keith Carey.
Wow. That was but I mean, just the most consistent. One of the only guys who battled in 2013 and still battled in 2023, and he's had success in Hollywood. Like, he doesn't need to do this.
No.
He does it for the love of the game, which is, what I love about the guy.
Yeah, he loves a subject and he loves to write about it. I mean, he loves to write a joke, and he can write a hell of a joke. This is the first guy we're talking about, and it makes sense because he's the 2-time back-to-back Battle of the Year guy back when we used to do those awards. And I mean, Keith Carey's probably been like 1 or 1A ever since we started this thing. So congratulations, Keith.
Congratulations.
Raising your jersey to the rafters.
The first member of the inaugural class of the Hall of Fame. Well, you and Jeff. Keith is 3.
Right.
You're 1. You and Jeff 1 and 1A. I don't know.
Yeah. Shout out Josh Martin and Kenny Lyon.
You're way too modest about this. I love making you uncomfortable by being like, you deserve to be in this thing. You know that, right?
I just feel like Dr. James Naismith. Like, I'm not the best baller. I just like, we should play basketball.
Yeah. And then Keith starts dunking from the free throw
you're
line.
like, that's why we did this. Yeah, because I want to see that all the time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But to me, nobody more deserving. Absolutely crushed it every time he was on stage. I'm glad we got to watch that one back. A lot of memories for me, just like going back and seeing all those jokes again and being like, man, that's one of those, like, against any other opponent, either of us, I feel like, would have dominated. There would not have been an overtime.
No.
Because that was like a career performance from both.
You like you said, you couldn't take any jokes off. I mean, and there's guys who do that. I see a lot today. But I mean, man, back then it was, you had to bring your A or triple XL game with fucking Keith Carey. He's so good.
And there's one, because we cut out a lot of the like in between segments, but I remember when they were pushing for, I think it was double or OT or triple OT, whatever, you were like, do you have any? And I was so in a zone. I was like, I'll be here all fucking night if I have to be. I had probably 60 jokes. And what we did was afterwards, we would go to Norm's every week, the diner on La Cienega. And we would go, and my favorite part of that era was the Norm's hang after, where you read all the jokes you didn't get to use.
Oh, that's fun.
And Keith and I went another, 30 rounds at Norm's. Like it was I
want that BTS.
Yeah, dude, you and me both. That was fun times. And it was a great era, and Keith very deserving to go into the Hall of Fame. Also at 93%. So these were the two guys who were each named on every ballot but one. They were left off, which I find interesting because to me there's no way you can leave off either of those guys. But, in baseball, like for years nobody would get 100%. Like Ken Griffey Jr. would be like 99.
Right.
And the logic was, well, Babe Ruth didn't get 100. How can we give this guy 100?
Right.
And it's not that there's any wrong choices, but I really think if you left off Keith Carey or this guy on your ballot, you kind of goofed up. I'm talking about the season 2 champ, Frank Castillo. Frank, another guy who has been there since the beginning. When I showed up in 2014, he was the Belly Room champion. He was undefeated when I showed up, I think 6-0. A lot of people only know him from the Comedy Central win, but they don't realize how instrumental he was to those first couple of years of Roast Battle.
Yeah, so Frank shows up with a broken iPhone and says, this is before Coach T even. He gets there and he's like, I can, because I had this open mic, and he was just, when we started doing the roast battles, and he's like, I can play music, and I'm like, on this broken piece of, all right, man, whatever. I didn't care because I just needed the help, and it was dry in there, so I was like, I'll take some music, whatever Frank. And then he's like, well, I can battle too. I'm just like, whatever, man. I didn't know this kid was a comic. I just thought he was trying to get in, and then he starts, then he battles, and it was like, oh, okay. And then, we had the guys, right? That was like the main event, and then the belly room guys or the undercard guys. That was like where Frank kind of like guys we didn't trust. You'd give them like one round each of like, go ahead, you get 3 shots to like make this thing happen because we don't want to see it anyway, kind of a thing.
Right.
And so Frank was just kind of the king of that. Him and this other guy who wasn't a comic, Pete Carnacion, and they were just the best at this undercard thing. And then we had a showcase, and that's when Coach T came through. The Wave was incepted that night. Bill Burr judged the first and last time he's ever done it.
Wow.
And it was at Jesus Trejo versus Tony Hinchcliffe, and our undercard on that fight card was Pete and Frank. And then Frank won and was our first undercard belly room champion. And ever since then, he's kind of like gone off. I remember he was pissed he didn't get picked for season 1.
Yes.
Right? And then season 2 came around. It was a tournament. Or was the second tournament we did. And he was the last guy to get picked.
And I mean, talk about making it pay off.
The absolute
won the whole fucking thing.
Last. I mean, it was a fight to get him in there because I remember like Comedy Central, you got to have certain credits and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Back when they were a network, but I remember, it was like we got to put Frank in.
And for me, he represented so much more than just himself.
Yeah, he represented the whole community.
Yeah, the whole community. Because we're sitting back, and I was new enough where like I was hoping I would get into the season 2 tournament. I did the Road to Roast Battle, but I wasn't taking it personally when I didn't get in. But you would look at certain guys who are not part of this world. Right. They're big name comedians or whatever, and I understand why Comedy Central went with them. But guys like Frank, we all rooted for. Yeah. Because it's like your job is to go up there and show them that we do this shit better than anybody else in the world.
Yeah.
And that's what he did, man.
Yeah, he won the whole fucking
thing. He went in,
thing.
major underdog, won the whole thing. And when I first showed up in the belly room, he was the guy. By the end of 2014, people weren't talking about Jesus Trejo and Tony Hinchcliffe and everything. That got the shit launched. But by the time I got there a year in, it was like, oh, you got to see this Frank Castillo kid.
Yeah, dude, he was knocking.
Ridiculous.
He was knocking people out.
You got to see
jokes.
Hooper. You got to see Dosh. You got to see these guys. Like, they're unbelievable. And what my first big battle was against Frank when I was about a year.
Really?
In. Oh, I prepped for that like I was fighting Ali in his prime. Dude, I was
holy shit.
I was writing every day and everything. I was like, this isn't good enough. It isn't good enough.
Damn.
And he by that point had already been the champ, and he was just like, who's this guy?
He was
Whatever.
over it, yeah. There was a point where like Frank was just over it.
Yeah, but he had 2 waves where he reached the top, you know, both in the belly room and on Comedy Central. There's not a lot of footage. I don't think any footage of his from the belly room that exists that I could find.
No. Yeah, old school Frank was a bad boy.
He really was.
he really was a bad dude.
But what we will watch is the finals of when he was on Comedy Central. And this is his second fight of the night, his 4th or 5th of the tournament against Matthew Broussard, who again, to me, was representing the more successful, more mainstream comedians that Comedy Central wanted to win. I don't know if that's a conspiracy.
Right.
You know, to me, that's a better...
He's the Alabama for Comedy Central. Like, we got to get him into the CFP, man, some way.
Exactly. Yeah. And not that he's not incredible. He is, and he should be in the Hall of Fame someday.
Listen, but the reason we sell that show, shout out Matthew Broussard and Jimmy Carr, we had it was called Roastmasters. So I know like the internet people know the Roastmasters from New York. We helped them name that thing because we called it the Roastmasters Invitational, which was the first roast battle tournament
in Montreal
at Just for Laughs. Yeah, 2015, I think.
Yeah.
And Matt Broussard was a new face that year. He didn't even want to do it.
He's just that good.
Didn't even want to do it. Made it all the way to the finals versus Jimmy Carr, and Jimmy Carr had like writers like Louis C.K. before he was canceled at the time.
Right.
So I mean, like that's who Matt was going up against.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So he's
Broussard's a genius.
Yeah.
And this battle's a lot of fun. This is the finals of season 2 on Comedy Central. Frank Castillo, Matthew Broussard. Here it is.
Frank, I'm not surprised you beat Joe. I figured a Mexican would be able to pick off a fruit.
Don't think so.
Matt's a big fan of One Tree Hill. Not the show, but the place where his family used to hang black people.
Oh, yeah, I forgot his mom was in the crowd. That was a big focus. This is when the Wave brought their A material, and the internet was still like, we hate it.
I was like, how?
We hate it.
Frank, I don't appreciate you painting me as a racist. I painted you to paint myself.
Dude, that was when we were all watching, and we went nuts. It was like the space shuttle. We were just like, he fucked up. It's Frank's to win.
He's white.
Frank,
Let him do it again.
You look like the IT guy at a taco truck.
Thank you, Matthew McKinda-Gay.
Trouble right now.
Order! Matt doesn't do drugs. His unsuspecting victims do.
This is where the world learned you can't be an attractive white man without getting called a racist and a rapist.
Oh, yeah. The roast battle.
Yep.
Frank's mom is here supporting him tonight, and Frank's mom is actually so Hispanic that she's younger than he is.
That's so good. Holy shit, that's funny.
Yeah, he does look younger than Frank, though.
Matt's a lot like the food at my work. He's about to get served by a Mexican.
Broussard just dropped one of the best roast jokes I've ever heard.
Oh, the Trump getting peed on. I can't believe we got to do that.
Oh my God, dude.
People don't understand, man.
I want to apologize to half of our new internet fans that the political views of the Wave do not reflect. I mean, they reflect mine.
A legend!
In 2 sentences.
A legend!
The prize for tonight is actually $25,000, which is sad because even if Frank wins it, he'll still have to use it to pay for the wall.
Topical joke.
Okay.
You got trying to send Frank a bill at that point.
Women have described Matt as tall, handsome, armed and on foot. Last seen leaving through their bedroom window.
Perfect. He painted him the way he wanted to. Jamar had a fake.
Gentlemen, last joke for the championship.
Don't pull this down.
Good God.
Frank, the sad part is you're Hispanic, but disappointingly so. You're as Mexican as a Whopperito. You think Hispanic people laugh by going, ja, 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 ja.
I'm going for ja, 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 ja.
Order.
Matt's in really great shape. He looks like he's been training his whole life to run the Aryan race.
Job, Frankie.
Classic. It's classic. He played it exactly the way it was supposed to be played. I felt, watching that back, I felt bad for Broussard.
Yeah.
Because, like, as soon as he stumbled, the crowd smelled blood, and they were all over him.
Couldn't recover.
And that was the one thing about the Wave. Like, as much as I love the Wave, if you were losing, there was a double 1-2 punch knockout effect of your opponent hitting a home run, and then you having to follow not only your opponent hitting a home run, but them doing, like, a Donald Trump getting pissed on bit. Like, that's not easy to kind of rebound from, you know?
Yeah. It's like people are laughing at you, and then they're like aggressively laughing at you.
Yeah, and you saw a lot of Broussard just kind of like scratching his head. Like, he's such a cool customer. I've never seen him thrown like that. But Frank was just in a zone that night, man.
Dude, that whole tournament he was.
Yeah. He was unbelievable. And, like, you know, for him he doesn't battle anymore. I think he did one battle after that. We did a best of the belly room thing. He came back for one night against Alex Young. And it was okay. You could see a little bit of rust there, and I was hopeful that it would begin the third, like, Castillo 3.0 kind of run. But he just judges now. He's a great judge.
Yeah.
Still very much involved with the show.
He's retired. Jersey in the Raptors player. That's why he's out of there.
Exactly.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Exactly. Jersey is up there exactly where it belongs. Right next to Keith Carey, Brian Moses, Jeff Ross. And now let's raise the fifth and final banner of this episode. We'll be back next week to talk about more. This is Kim Congdon.
Oh,
now,
the Queen of Mean.
Kim Congdon has gone on to so much other success, but again, another person who is very proud of her time with the roast battle. You can catch her on a lot of random Tuesday nights in the belly room judging. You can catch her at Jam in the Van down in Culver City judging.
Met her ex-boyfriend, Luis J. Gomez, battling him in the belly room.
That's right, LA versus New York.
It was a bet that they had, the Roastmasters versus the belly room, and then they wanted to battle each other, and then they fell in love.
A tale as old as time. And she, by the way, she beat the shit out of him.
She beat the shit out of Luis J. Gomez, yeah.
Kim Congdon had a run where she was just not only winning, but like winning convincingly over everybody. I still think in terms of like win percentage, she only has like 3 losses in 10 years. Hardly anyone has ever beat Kim Congdon. You know, consistent performances. And it maybe kills it more than anyone else as a judge now, too.
Yeah.
She's
I mean,
just like
Kim had
unreal.
a reel of her judging, and it got her representation. I mean, like,
wow.
That's how badass she is. I mean, she's one of the quickest off the cuff. All her jokes are very, very, very pointed and solid and good. They're never, like, really surface level-y, kind of at this point anyway. But she's the original person. It's her battle versus Sarah Mostajabi. I think that shows everybody like, oh, this can be good, because before that, we didn't know if battles could be good because we had so many new open mic level comedians just doing this thing, right? Every Tuesday in 2013. And then I want to say like October-ish, November-ish, Kim and Sarah show up like, we can do this. And, you know, this is 2013 comedy. Everybody's like, women aren't funny. And they're like, I knew then.
By the way, not much different from 2023.
I mean, they're still saying that,
but
if you look at roast battle and the percentages, women are the best. And after that, if you're looking at groups of people, it's women, then it's Mexicans, and then after that, it's probably white guys because they dominate the sport because there's so many of them. But yeah, just those two in particular, it's really women dominate this sport, and it's a testament because Sarah and Kim were the first to kind of show everybody that a roast battle could be good. And after that, we're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's it. So it's fitting that she is our first lady inducted into the Hall of Fame.
I will say, small sample size, but people in wheelchairs excel at roast battle too.
Good point. I'm sorry about that. Disabilities are third. All right.
Yes, they're ahead of the whites.
Yeah. So physical handicaps and social handicaps do very well outside of black people in the roast battle. We don't do well in the roast battle.
And Kim has one thing on her resume that nobody else has, which is she was one of the top people in the belly room. And then she moved to New York and was one of the top people at Roastmasters.
Oh yeah. WCW and WWF or WWE. Yeah, she was. Yeah, she really had 2 belts on both coasts. She's a monster.
Yeah, it was absolutely crazy how she was just dominating kind of everywhere she went. This was a battle she actually did 2 years ago.
Oh wow.
Now she was basically retired at this point. She was out of the game again, judging a lot. And then this was part of the Netflix is a Joke Festival in 2021. Or no, was that it was 2022?
2022.
Yeah, it was 2022.
Yeah.
So it was last year, coming up on 2 years, though. It was early 2022. We sort of got word last second that we were going to be in this thing. I reached out to everybody. And when I reached out to Kim, I didn't expect a yes. I thought she was out of the game. And I said, will you come back and battle Paige Wesley? And she said, sure. And I was excited, but I also thought, like, Paige was red hot at the time. Kim was out of the game for a while. I thought there'd be some rust. Boy, there wasn't. She came back and just absolutely crushed it, and was the battle of the night, in my opinion. Stole the show, so let's check it out now. Kim versus Paige.
Kim fucked so many athletes, they retired her phone number.
I'm going to start off real quick by saying, Paige, I watched a bunch of your battles to get ready for this tonight. I saw what people were saying. Everybody comes up here, right? And they just say make a bunch of fat jokes, yes? See? An elephant never forgets.
Such a good twist, structure-wise.
Oh, it's true. I'm fat. Kim is actually part Native American, so she's just jealous that I'm using all parts of the buffalo.
Paige has a podcast about cults, which makes sense. She would drink the Kool-Aid. I'm serious. She looks like every time she comes, she breaks through a wall and goes, oh yeah!
Classic.
Thank you, Whore Loco.
Whore Loco.
Kim dropped out of the University of Florida, but in her defense, she was a first-round draft pick for getting rammed.
Thank you. Paige Wesley is so fat.
How fat is she?
If she watches Netflix for too long, it says, are you still eating?
Well, they have to check in, just for safety. Kim is half Puerto Rican, half Native American, so her tribal name is Fights with Bartenders.
Did Kim win this one? I mean, like...
She did. She's got at least one haymaker coming, from what I remember.
Why do you guys laugh like that? Paige has really thin lips because they're the only part of her that works out.
It's so economical. It's a fat joke, but the setup is out of left field.
Damn, those Redfin, you know? I stay in the fridge 3 times a week, 2 hours a day. No days off. Kim's favorite sex position is staff writer.
That joke is fucking insane.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
It's unbelievable.
How did she not win?
I think we got an OT in this one.
Before the stroke.
Paige didn't lose her virginity till she was 25, which proves that she's racist.
I absolutely love that joke.
It's silent but deadly.
Yes.
You went first last time. Kim, you're first. It's a joke, though. Let's run.
Paige is married and I'm not, which makes sense because I spit out good material and she swallows it.
sugar up. Honestly, Kim is amazing. She has fought some of the best roast battlers there is. She's written on TV shows. She's been on TV herself. And it's easy after tonight to see how she made all of that happen. By waiting on her knees in front of a Home Depot.
Decent Mexican horse.
Yeah, it's not bad. It definitely wasn't. You know, her best of the battle. Kim had the stronger overtime.
Right.
But, I mean, this battle highlights some of the things that I really love about Kim from a joke writing perspective. Look, you battle Paige Wesley and you're going to do a bunch of fat jokes.
Right.
It's just, you'd be crazy not to.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that, you know, you can't take different kind of angles on it. You can't vary the setups. You can't incorporate different things about Paige into, you know, the beginning of the joke. And I thought Kim attacked a bunch of different angles, even though it kept coming back to the fat thing.
Right.
I also thought her closer, losing her virginity until she's 25, which proves that she's racist, was one of the best slow burn jokes in roast battle history. We edited it in a way where the crowd hadn't even caught on by the time we got to
it's a silent but deadly,
We could have included 30 seconds of reaction on that joke because it came in waves.
Yeah, it really did.
You know?
Like, oh.
Yeah, a few people got it and they were like, whoa. By the way, as a black guy, can you confirm?
Yeah, no, Paige is racist.
Yeah. You know.
Paige isn't racist.
What's that?
Paige isn't racist. She's from Oakland. She's fine.
Yes, of course.
All right.
Everything we say here is in jest, and
let's hope
we would never disparage again a future Hall of Famer. I don't think there's any doubt that Paige Wesley is going to be part of that.
Did she get 2 ballots? Because anyway,
how dare you?
She's that good. I'm saying.
But do you have any closing thoughts on Kim? Anything else that we haven't covered?
I mean, you covered the thing that she was over at Roast Masters for a few years. She started out here, kind of a thing. She really does christen this sport for the sake of the sport. I mean, like without Kim Congdon, I don't think people see that and say like, oh, this can be good, because the week after that we got Pete Carnacion versus Hormuz Rashidi. Nobody knows who those guys are, but those guys are really good joke writers as well. And they fought the next week because they saw Kim and Sarah. They're like, oh, we didn't know this could be like, I thought you guys were just being like jerks up there. This is actually, this could be good. And then they showed us like, oh, it's another level to this.
Yeah.
So shout out Kim Congdon. Well-deserved, obviously, raising your jersey to the rafters. But yeah, without Kim, I don't think people see that you can be a hell of a comic and a hell of a joke writer.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, we gave our pitches for upcoming roast battle shows. Kim Congdon taping a special December 7th, I believe.
Yes,
at Jam in the Van?
December 7th, yeah.
Yeah. So I saw her run. She did a set before the roast battle the other night that went like, it was like a half an hour. I've never seen a set that long before the battles. But she was great. She crushed the whole time. Her stand-up is really tight right now. It's really good.
Oh, yeah. No, Kim's a star. Like, she'll be like our first star at a roast battle. We were hoping it would be Frank, but...
yeah.
We got a Puerto Rican over a Mexican.
Kim has a couple attributes that Frank doesn't have.
Yeah, she's a better joke writer.
So that's this episode. Next episode, we'll cover Mike Lawrence, Connor McSpadden, Omid Singh. Overall closing thoughts. What do you think of the first class? Did the voters get it right? No. I mean, you guys got the 3. You got Kim, well-deserved. She should be there. She's a day oneer. Obviously, Frank Castillo. Jeff Ross, obviously. I don't know what you guys are talking about with me. And Keith Carey. Keith Carey is well-deserved, but the fact we don't have Sarah Tiana in there, you should have picked Jimmy Carr just because we don't have a worldwide roast battle, a global roast battle without Jimmy Carr. Yeah.
So I think those are 2 we missed. And then there's some guys on the ballot we didn't have, like K. Trevor Wilson. He's the first Canadian winner. He gets in the Final Four the first season, right? Beats Jimmy Carr in 2019 at the Just for Laughs Festival. When Jimmy has never lost in that tournament, right? Two times previous. But for the most part, no Ashley Barnhill. She had a hell of a run, right?
Yep.
That kind of gets disrupted by Olivia Grace there. George Perez was the scariest battler we had ever seen.
Literally.
I mean, he was terrifying.
Yeah.
And then there's Guy Branum. I think, he's an author. He's a movie star at this point. But yeah, there was a point Alex Hooper brought in Guy Branum, and yeah, Guy was the scariest thing battling outside of George Perez. And George wouldn't battle him because George had just got out of prison and he couldn't be seen with gay people.
Really? Even if he was insulting them?
Yeah, no, he couldn't. Like, it was like, it's prison rules, and you know, George doesn't fuck with that shit. But then they became friends and they ended up battling, and because George was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not in prison. I'm not going back. Like, I'm good.
That's the two things they don't stand for in prison: child molesters and guys who roast battled gay people.
Yeah, like, oh.
Those are the prison rules.
I didn't know. Yeah.
Out in the yard. There are so many names that we could have put on the ballot.
Yeah.
And
Luis
again,
J. Gomez, The Stand.
It's really hard to weigh like the contributions of somebody who did 2 battles, but they were instrumental in getting the show off the ground versus somebody who came along 2 years in, but they did 40 battles.
Right.
It's really hard to compare. What's going to happen is the 7 names on there are going to come off the board for next year, along with the people who didn't get a certain percentage of the votes. They will come off, and we're going to be adding new names to the ballot going forward. Really hard to come up to limit this to 33. It could have been 100.
Connor leading the wave, that all nigga wave, man. I can't wait to talk about the wave in the next episode. This is going to be great.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. We wanted to ease the viewers in by getting them to see the wave and form an opinion before we tell them next week why they're wrong.
Oh yeah. Because it's black people don't swim very much. I think we have a guy on the swim team now, but back in 2013, you guys, it wasn't really happening much. But shout out that all nigga wave with that one white member.
Absolutely. That's it for this week. Appreciate you guys checking us out.
January 31st, RBL
January
Finals
31st.
in Denver. Check out the website, please. Go to the Instagram. Check out our roast battles. We have new shows every Thursday. Podcast drops every Tuesday. Individual battles in between that. Check out the content. We're growing. Thank you guys for fucking subscribing.
Yeah, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Follow us on Instagram at Roast Battle, at RBL Commish. And we'll be back next week with the second part of the Hall of Flame episode. For Brian Moses, I'm Pat Barker. We'll see you guys next week.